Spencer Lee got pinned. Now, this is the first time that this has happened to Spencer Lee since 2009, whenever he was wrestling in the Pennsylvania Junior Tournament. So I'm going to go all into the discussion with the past weekend's match, Oklahoma State versus Iowa. Let's get right into this and jump into 125 pounds. Now, of course, this was a big match, not only for Iowa, but also for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is undefeated this season, and so was Iowa until Oklahoma State handed them their first loss. The Cowboys looked spectacular in the match. Now, the match ended up 27-12 Oklahoma State, and there were some really great marquee matches. These two teams, 17 ranked wrestlers between them. There were 13,000 fans in Oklahoma State's arena, and it was really just a phenomenal duel all around. So Oklahoma State will remain undefeated at 15-0 this dual meet season. But as for the matches, Spencer Lee, of course, he wrestled Nick Piccininni, and Piccininni is the number 4 ranked kid in the country right now. At this point, he'll probably jump up to 2 or 3 after pinning Spencer Lee. This was a great way to start off the match. I mean, to be honest with you, Spencer Lee looked like he was, I don't want to say he was in control, but this match could have went either way up until the pin in the second period. Now, he ended up getting pinned, you know, in that second period after he shot in on Piccininni. Piccininni took him in that near side cradle, cranked him over, and that was it, with about 10 seconds left in the second period, 10-15 seconds left. And, I mean, Piccininni just looked like he was on fire, and he was pumped up after that match, as he should be. Spencer Lee has, I don't want to say he has been struggling this season, because he hasn't. He had a tough match against the number 1 ranked kid, Sebastian Rivera, and then he had, you know, this match this past week against Piccininni. And, you know, it's tough for him. And he's going to now, he's got to win that conference championship. He's got to win Big Tens and hope for a decent seeding at Nationals. He's going to run into one of these guys, depending on, you know, what the seedings end up at Nationals. He's going to run into one of them in the quarters or most likely the semis. And people are gunning for him this year. And you know, though he has a pretty great record, you know, Piccininni, he's 28-0 right now. What a record. I mean, and like I said, this is the first time Lee has been pinned since the 2009 Pennsylvania Junior Wrestling Tournament. What is up with that? Hopefully he can pull it together for the rest of the season. He's still my number 1 pick for a national champion, but Piccininni, great work. Let's move on to 133 pounds. We had Austin DeSanto versus Daton Fix. This was the other marquee match of the night, and it did not let down. Oklahoma State kept rolling along, and Fix ended up beating DeSanto. He beat him 2-0, so it was a little bit of an uneventful match. You know, there were some great shots, great battles, a couple scrambles, but for the most part, where this really lied, where the match really cranked up, was the third period. So Fix was up 1-0 on DeSanto, and DeSanto took bottom. And as we know, Fix is great with the legs, and that's just, he threw those boots in with 5 seconds into the third period, and he ended up riding DeSanto out. Now, DeSanto was pretty close, actually, at the end of the match to getting a reversal, and he was close to an escape a couple times, but just couldn't get out of Fix's grasp, and that just shows what a great wrestler, you know, Daton Fix is, that he can ride this guy out for, he had over 3 minutes of riding time, I believe, is what it ended up, or no, 2 minutes riding time is what it ended up, but, one big thing that happened this match was whenever Fix basically choked DeSanto. I mean, it was like a rear naked choke right there. It was pretty bizarre to see him doing that, because, I mean, obviously Fix is aggressive. And I think what this really comes back to is a lot of guys are out there, they're gunning for DeSanto. They want to see him fall and fail because of his antics on and off the mat. Now, DeSanto was well kept after this match. He didn't do anything bad or unsportsmanlike. It was just, you know, I lost. I got that loss handed to me, and I got to find a way to win. And, you know, hopefully he carries that throughout the rest of the season. And this really just cranks up 133 pounds even more, because now Fix, he actually has a loss to Mickey Philippi, and although he has 9 wins over ranked opponents. Now, you know, DeSanto also, he has a loss to Austin Gomez, and this has just been going all around the entire weight. You know, guys beating each other, losing to each other. Everything's just a mess right now at 133 pounds. The only person that's kind of out of the clear a little bit is Stefan Micic, sorry, because he's just ahead of the curve, because he hasn't wrestled a couple of these guys, and the guys that he has wrestled, like a Suriano, like a Pletcher, he's handled them pretty well. So he's sitting pretty clean right now. The match, you know, so Oklahoma State, they were up pretty big right then, 9-zip. Going into 141 pounds, where Max Murin was wrestling number 14, Cade Brock of Oklahoma State, and Brock ended up getting the decision on Murin. He beat him 8-6. There were some nice scrambles in this match, but you know, nothing too spectacular. But a nice win for Cade Brock of Oklahoma State. Moving on to 149 pounds was another good match against ranked wrestlers. You had number 11 Pat Lugo of Iowa versus number 6 Caden Gefeller of Oklahoma State. Now, Lugo ended up getting the win in that match. He won 7-4, and this is another match that it was going back and forth through takedowns and escapes, and the scrambles there were pretty nice. What Gefeller did really well, and he's been doing well all season, is his ability to reverse guys whenever he's on bottom and get that too. And he did that once to Lugo, and that helped him, you know, score some points there. Unfortunately, he did end up with the loss, and he also had a loss to Brock Mahler last week. So this actually ended up getting some points for the Hawkeyes on the board, but a pretty solid match all around. Going into 157 pounds, we had number 7 Caleb Young versus Wyatt Sheets from Oklahoma State. Sheets is an unranked wrestler, and Caleb Young's number 7. Nothing too crazy to talk about here. Young ended up getting the decision 112-6 and helped the Hawkeyes to increase the score. So at this point in the match, we're thinking, you know, the Hawkeyes, Iowa could be mounting comeback. You know, it's tough to come back after that deficit of the Spencer Lee pin, which would swing the match. Or could swing the match, the momentum, and the score. But at this point, you know, we get into 165 pounds. No intermission during this match. We just had straight wrestling, wrestled straight through, which made the match go pretty quick in my opinion. But we had number 2 Alex Marinelli versus Blaylock of Oklahoma State. Now this match, Marinelli ended up getting the fall, and this is big for Iowa here. And Marinelli, he just showed dominance the entire year. His ability to take these guys down and turn them over, get points on top, it has proven that he should be that number 2 ranked wrestler. And I know some people are arguing that maybe he should be the number 1 ranked wrestler because Chenzo hasn't wrestled Marinelli or Wick, who's the number 3 guy at 165 pounds. Chenzo still deserves to be at the top. He's a 2-time returning national champion, but Marinelli's gunning for him, and he'll be out there for him at Big Tens. And as we move on to 174 pounds, this is where we have Mitch Bowman versus number 11 Chandler Rogers. And at this point in the match, it was kind of strange with a couple of the weight changes, because Chandler Rogers is working his way down to 165 pounds. And then at 184 pounds, we also had Jacoby Smith, who's working his way down to 174 pounds. They'll be down there at the lower weights for the postseason, but in this match, they weighed in lighter, which kind of, you know, it hurt them a little bit because they're giving up weight, but in this match, they had to wrestle up just because of the plan with John Smith's plan. But with Mitch Bowman versus Chandler Rogers, Rogers ended up getting the fall, which was pretty solid. Rogers is a senior from Oklahoma State, and he had quite possibly the longest celebration I've ever seen. When he pinned Bowman, he gets up just like, oh, you know, another day on the job. But he is a senior, so that's kind of why he was doing that crazy celebration at the end of the match. It continued right after the pin, after the handshake, after he had his hand raised. He was celebrating the whole time, but good for Chandler Rogers. Going into 184 pounds, we had Cash Wilkie versus number 11, Jacoby Smith from Oklahoma State. Of course, Wilkie is from Iowa. Smith ended up getting that decision on Wilkie 6-3. Had some solid takedowns. He really just was in control the entire match. And, you know, he will be a force to be reckoned with at Nationals, especially when he bumps down a weight. You know, Jacoby Smith just looked jammed, you know, right out there on the mat, and he's had some nice wins this year. Of course, he beat Drew Foster, and also he beat Drew Foster, which has helped him. You know, he's a top guy in the weight class, 184 pounds. And I believe he has a win over Nino Bonacorsi as well, who's another tough guy at that weight. But now that he's bumping down, that opens the weight up just a little bit, but it is still one of the toughest weight classes this year for sure. At 197 pounds, Iowa at this point, they needed to score some bonus points in order to potentially pull out the win. However, Weigel of Oklahoma State ended up getting that decision on Warner. He won the match 5-3. Warner, of course, is a redshirt freshman, while Weigel is, I believe he's a senior as well. He remains undefeated on the season and had over 3 minutes of riding time during this match. He's a force to be reckoned with on top. Now, the thing about this match is Weigel, for whatever reason, now he's the number 6 kid in the country, Warner is number 4, so it was an upset here, but Weigel was pretty much giving up the match in the second and third period. He kept getting these horrible call, and not horrible from the refs, but horrible like, why are you doing this? He got a locked hands call, he got a caution point, and then I believe he even got a hands to the face call, and he just kept kind of stalling a little bit, not doing too much. And I understand he wanted to hold on to his points, get that win on senior night, get that win over the guy who's ranked ahead of him. But when you're up like that, you have to keep going after your opponent. You have to keep the offensive going, or you're going to get hit with that stall call. So, you know, that's that there. But it did secure the win for Oklahoma State. And at 285 pounds, we had probably, you know, this match, like I said, flew up until this point. And then at heavyweight, we had probably the longest match of the night, just because these guys kept going out of bounds. You had number 7, Sam Stoll from Iowa, and number 2, Derek White from Oklahoma State. Now, these guys are both tough ranked wrestlers. Stoll right now, he's 8-2. White is 23-1. His lone loss on the season is to Gable Stevenson, who's number 1 true freshman at the weight class. So his loss, he actually had a loss to Stoll as well in 2018, which is interesting because he ended up switching the tide here. Derek White ended up pulling out the win. And like I said, Oklahoma State pulled out the duel. They won the duel 27-12 and are undefeated on the season. And, you know, an incredible match. Make sure you comment below, what was your favorite match? And, you know, are you excited for the postseason to see a couple of these guys? But let me know what your favorite match was in the comments below.